Okay, so um, doing this again. Okay, and um, I was under the impression, okay, when I was recording this the first time, that something was wrong with the virtualization, and I had cleaned off my desk and had added rear routers, sitting on my desk, plugged them in, and of course I'm missing Ethernet cables, but still, nonetheless. But then something told me, you better go back, okay, because something tells me that you're missing something, okay, and every time I have that intuition, okay, 9 times out of 10, all right, it's something that I did not do. I forgot, okay, or, okay, um, one thing that you understand throughout working on technology and PCs, okay, is 95% of the time, okay, you are the mistake, okay? Now, we know SHRP, okay, that's virtualization, okay? And now that I have real routers sitting on here, we can actually go back to that after I get a switch on here and remake some cables, because apparently all my Ethernet cables are gone. All right, so we're going to go ahead and revisit this, okay, from the perspective of, um, well, my computer has booted, okay, or I should say my server has booted, but I got to run the VMs. Okay, so I have a question for you, okay, and you know, every time you watch a video, okay, with someone who's teaching, they have a question, and they want you to answer it and pause the video. We don't do that crap here, okay. Even if I used to do that in the past, it's just not my thing, okay. So the question that I ask is really a I guess rhetorical, because I'm not expecting an answer, but I am expecting a thought process in your brain, and it's for you to answer. Okay, so hold on, virtual machines. Okay, come on. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so in order for router two, okay, to learn EIGRP routes, what must we do? We must have an interface that is connected directly to a router that's enabled with EIGRP and enable EIGRP on router 2 itself. So, does that mean if I want to share routes from one routing protocol to another, which we call redistribution, okay, does that mean that router 2, for example, must be where we do our redistribution at? Do I have to have OSPF and EIGRP on that particular router itself? All right. So there's your question. Now, all right. So the philosophy that I like to give out to the world, whether it's routing or life, because routing and switching and firewalls and all that stuff, from my perspective, is life itself. Okay. All right. As you grow into it, what's important? Okay. When I am on a contract or a colleague or whatever, and I see him randomly taking commands off, okay, and doing short commands to see if that fixes the problem, okay, that's guys, that's a huge no-no. I don't want you working on my network no more. Okay, all right, I don't, because when you randomly take things on and off, there's a disconnect on the why we had that command on there in the first place. Okay, and I'm a huge believer in my philosophy of the why. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this set up. Man, you're slow. There we go. Let's bring this a little bit closer. Talk about the keyboard here. Ooh, come on. Okay. All right. So we'll say host name. All right. Go ahead, around a two. Oops. Change this to this and say no. Okay. All right. So now let's go into come on, stop being stupid. I got my mouse cord all over the place. I got a serious dust problem in my house. To the point where I'm thinking about even getting a some type of dust filter. Um, because the dust kind of balls up. Okay, and I mean annoyingly too. I could dust the whole desk. Okay, like the section I put my routers, that's all cleaned up. And I swear to God, tomorrow it'll be all dusty again. All right. So anyway, G2 IP OSPF area 0. Oh, okay. All right. So interface G2. It's telling me I need an IP address. 192.168. Okay, and all right. So here I gotta say no router. Yeah, GRP1. Oh boy. Hang on, I'm doing maintenance here. I can put my eye drops in. Ooh. All right. My eyes are always dry. Uh, since my issues with my heart, that constantly, like I said, the symptoms that come from heart failure is just astronomical. But nonetheless, all right. So um, I am actually, speaking of which, I'm doing great since last year. I just got an echo done, and my heart has not changed since then, which means it hasn't gotten worse. And um, I had a checkup the other day, and even the doctor listening to my heart, or listening to me breathing, or I should say, listening to my heart, with the oh my God, the thing that he puts it in his ears and puts it on your chest and your back and tells you to take a deep breath. All right, I can't say the word, but you understand. I mean, just doing that, he has noticed a. I mean, keep in mind, this guy is recalling what it sounded like over a year and a half ago. I mean that's pretty impressive. Okay, that's that much of a noticeable difference. But yes, I'm having problems speaking today. That's kind of common sometimes. But nonetheless, first of all, host name. Okay, we'll go back over to here. That's already changed. 192.168. That 2.3. Okay. All right. So now do show IP OSPF interfaces. Oh, all right. First of all, um, default interface G1. Okay. Interface G2. No shut. Okay, and let's go to router one. Um, okay. First of all, okay. Now stop that. Okay. Where were we? Right here. Interface G1. No shut. All right. So now do show IP EIGRP neighbors. Okay, I just got it. Okay. All right. So now on router one, interface loopback 0, IP address. Okay. All right. And router EIGRP1. All right. And we're going to say network. Okay. Done. So now on router 2. Okay. Good to know. All right. Now, in the original, and we're going to do a new command here. Do show IP protocol. Okay. And in this will give us information about what is running and what is going on, the parameters of the running protocol. And I'm looking for something here. And where are you? I don't see it. I do not see it. Oh, okay. So right here, there it is. And there it is. Okay. So now in the first video, okay, which obviously has been deleted, you didn't get to see, EIGRP wouldn't work. Okay. And the reason is because I put the same IP address on router 2 as I did router 1. Okay. All right. And what had happened was because EIGRP, which most people don't really realize, okay, they realize it in OSPF because it's something it's important because the router IDs in OSPF must be unique. Well, the same thing is in EIGRP. Okay, they must be unique from a perspective of it being in the same domain. If your router IDs are the same, okay, EIGRP will not exchange routes. Okay, so when I saw this, here's the thing. Okay, there's two things what happens when you are con- consistently ingested into something that you're learning. One thing is you're going to dream about doing that. Okay, so when I was running my own business with heating and air conditioning, all right, I would literally have dreams of actually serving my customers. Okay, that this is just normal behavior because it's always on your mind. Okay, with networking, all right, when you get to CCIE level, okay, even before then, depending on how hard you are studying, you are going to have many nights where you are waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning dreaming of configs. Okay, it's just the way it is. All right, and anytime I don't have EIGRP routes coming through, the first thing I check is the router ID because if they're the same and there's a conflict, it just will not it would not bring the routes into its router. And here's the thing. That means when router 1 sends out the routes, apparently it's sending out its router ID. Okay? All right, so when router 2 looks at it and says it's the same as mine, it's not going to take the routes. There's no warning. EIGOP does not tell you what's going on. This is something you need to know. Okay? Now, in the first video, it took me 5 seconds. Okay? All right, because here's the thing. Some of the things of what you're learning throughout your lessons, okay, it could take a week, days, even weeks before you figure out what's going on. Okay, all right. You get two choices. One, you either keep the configs on those routers until you figure it out, or two, you just say screw it and move on. Okay, all right. So when you go through something like that, all right, and finally learn that it's the router ID, okay, it's just something that you're not going to forget. So in the first video, it took me seconds to realize what was going on, okay, and this time I tried to duplicate it and it didn't work, all right, because the router ID was chosen by the highest um, um, IP address that was on the router. Okay, normally it would choose the highest loopback address on the router first if there was loopback addresses on the actual router, which on router 2 there isn't. Not yet, anyway. Okay, so I'm telling you, which nobody else does. It's just one of those things we don't think about. Okay, all right. Make sure your router IDs are unique in your EIGRP domain in production. Okay, all right. As an engineer, this is something that is very important of your knowledge of EIGRP. OSPF is the same thing. Okay, all right. So, cool thing is, all right, we have EIGRP routes on here. Okay. All right, now we're going to go to router 3. Okay, now go back over to router 2. All right, and we have an OSPF route, okay, from its perspective. Now, I want, because from routers one's perspective, we got two concerns. One, all right, router 1 is in the EIGRP domain, okay, and in order for it to know about 3.3.3.3, okay, it needs to have that OSPF route, okay, inserted into the EIGRP domain. Okay, router 1 is speaking EIGRP. It has nothing, no knowledge of OSPF. Now, here's the thing. We could create a tunnel, okay, remember our beautiful tunnels, from router 1 to router 3, and put that tunnel in OSPF area 0. Okay, now router 1 is a part of it both. But that's not the lesson here. Okay, what we want to do is take OSPF, all right, routes and inject them into EIGRP. Now here's the thing. Okay, before we do that, we're gonna go into the router process, okay, and we're gonna say redistribute, okay, OSPF, the process ID. Okay, now here is the thing. All right, here's the thing. I just redistributed OSPF. Okay, so what that command does is two things. Okay, and we're going to find that it doesn't work. All right. Okay, no EIGRP routes on router 1. Okay, here's the thing. First of all, when I say redistribute OSPF, it's only going to redistribute the OSPF routes that's in the routing table. Okay? All right? But this command is incomplete because with EIGRP, we must identify. Let's go back over here. Okay, it's not even in the EIGRP topology table. I would expect it to be in there, but it's not. Okay, because we have to define with EIGRP a metric. Okay. Okay, good thing it told me that because I was really hoping that it would explain to me what which is which. Okay, so that's good. Um, so we say 0. Oh, just a 1, I guess. MTU. Okay, now we're done. Now let's go over here to router 1. And now that route of 3.3.3 is in there. Okay, now let's take a look at the routing table. Now here's the thing. It comes up as EX, and EX is EIGRP external. Okay, the administrative distance, instead of being 90, now remember, the administrative distance does not say it's a better route, but it says it's a more believable route. So it can be more believable, but still be a worse route. Okay, or I should say a worse route. I don't know. I don't even know if worser is a command is a real word, but a more worse route. Okay, so but EIGRP external routes are defaulted to a 170 administrative distance. So the thing is, if I have OSPF being learned on that same router, okay, router 1 that is, all right, with a administrative distance of 110, obviously this is not going to be in the routing table, okay, all right, but it will be, uh, well, let's do it, let's do it this way. Config T interface tunnel 1. You know what? This is, you know what? We can't do this yet, okay? Because we have a problem, okay? We do have a problem here. All right, and let's go ahead and say do show IP route. That 2.0. Okay, actually it is in there. And how? How? No, that says 1.0. How is that being learned? It's saying that it's redistributed. Wait a minute. Oh my God, it is there. Okay, I was not expecting that because on router 2, we redistribute OSPF. See, that's interesting because from my perspective, from what I remember, it's only the routes that are OSPF routes in the routing table and not the connected interfaces. This actually took the OSPF interface and injected it in the route. I mean, that's pretty cool because normally I would have to say redistribute connected, okay? Because redistributing connected interfaces is not done by default, okay? All right. Now, maybe this is mixing with my BGP knowledge, okay, which is definitely easily done, okay. But I wasn't expecting that. So technically, we can do this. So do show run interface tunnel 1. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, fine. I'm just gonna. Come on. All right, and then IP address. Okay, now I'm gonna go over here and say IP. All right, and now you know you know what's funny? I believe we're gonna have the same problem. To show IP route 192.168.1.0. Yeah, we're gonna have the same problem here on router 3. So we're not gonna do that. All right. Nonetheless, if I built a tunnel over here to here, okay. All right. Now we still can prove this. All right. But now I have to go over to router 2 and say router OSPF 1 redistribute EIGRP 1. Okay. Now here's another caveat because with EIGRP, if you do not specify the metric, it does not go in it doesn't even go into the topology table. Okay. With OSPF, if I just hit enter, okay, which I can do, it's only going to redistribute class full networks. I have to say subnets. So it can actually send out anything that's not the default class of that, class A, B, or C. Okay. Okay. Now you see these coming in. OSPF E2. Okay. Or external routes E2 and E1. Now, the difference between E2 and E1, okay, is if I had more routers in the OSPF domain, like daisy chained, the metric is never going to change with E2. Okay, that means every place in your domain has the same metric to reach that route. If that's not what you want, if you want the metric to be calculated and changed as it goes down the chain or down the domain downstream, okay, if you want to look at it from that perspective, then you would change them to E1 and your metric would change. Otherwise, they're going to all be 20 as a metric. Okay? But nonetheless, this is not an OSPF lesson. This is redistribution. Okay? Now, we even had, and it did it again. The 1.0/24 is there. Okay? As an E2 route, and so is 1.1.1. So now we can go back into our tunnel. Okay, and we're already loaded. So let's go over here to router 1. Okay, and as you can see, oh, okay. Remember we said about the tunnels. Okay, if the destination is being learned via the tunnel interface of what's creating your tunnel in the first place, all right, then we got a problem. Okay, all right. So, and that's what's happening here. Do ping. Oh, maybe not. But the tunnel. Okay, so it's up. I don't know how. And just back then. Mid chain recursive routing went from full to down. Okay, so yeah, that's what's gonna happen. I don't know how the hell I was able to ping the tunnel. But nonetheless, okay. All right. No interface tunnel 1. Okay, so nonetheless, the redistribution aspect is done. Okay. All right. What I wanted to show you was that EIGRP's route of 3.3.3.3 was going to be taking over with OSPF because it had a 110 administrative distance. But I also wanted to show you that I was also in the EIGRP topology table, so it's kind of like just sitting there to take over once the OSPF loses that route with a better administrative distance. We call this a floating route. Okay? All right? Now, technically, having a floating route, okay, if I had two ways to get to a route, all right, from router 1, let's say I'm going to create a static route, okay, but I have two ways of getting there. If I put them in the routing table as a static route, okay, with the default method of just doing IP route, IP address, subnet mask, and next hop, it's going to put both of those paths in the routing table. But if I change the second IP route command with a metric of 5, okay, then only one, because static routes have a metric of 1, okay, or is it administrative distance of 1? Uh, yeah, it's administrative distance of 1, okay, all right, but 0 for the metric, okay. So if I go in here and say 2 and say metric, okay, don't have to type out the word metric, and say 10, all right, that metric now has an administrative distance of 10. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting another thing, but nonetheless, okay, all right, this is your administrative distance. Obviously, changing that changes the administrative distance and not the metric. My bad. Okay, um, but if the first one, the default is 1, okay, and the second one you put in is a 10, okay, obviously this is doing the same route with the same administrative distance, I mean, with the same um, next hop. All you're doing is replacing that command. There's no floating working here, okay? But if I had two interfaces or multiple interfaces and multiple next hop, changing that second IP route command with an administrative distance of 10 it will not go in the routing table. The first one will. And it'll just sit there until the first one dies, giving you another path. That's what we call a floating route. All right, but nonetheless, we did our redistribution, okay, and it worked this time. All right, so like I said, that's pretty much it, and I will see you guys on the next one.